All right, we're here with another game of Jake's. His opponent has already opened Shantytown here, and it is the Bane, which makes that play a good bit better than it would otherwise be. What's going on here? Well, probably than it would otherwise be. We have Trader to thin, Bishop or excuse me, Moneylender to thin, and Bishop or Trader kind of. I mean, Bishop's going to be the only way to get rid of your estates and reduce the number of stop cards in your deck, or your opponent's bishop, obviously. There isn't much draw again. There's the Shantytown, which activates, or there's Faithful Hound, but the villages aren't drawing villages for Faithful Hound, again, unless Shantytown activates. Or if you gain a villa that's kind of goes to your hand, or native village. So, like, a number of native villages and faithful hounds can kind of draw you. But the draw is pretty weak. The way to get rid of curses is kind of weak. Shantytown's a reasonable bane. And Trader is also kind of defense if you're not minding the silvers so much, which, given that the draw isn't great and Villa's the only plus buy and all of this, I don't think that I would necessarily mind silvers too much, although Bishop giving a large number of points and Procession doing stuff, because Procession's another way you can draw, means that I wouldn't want to be underbuilt. Like, I would be a little bit worried about underbuilding here. My gut is that I'd probably not open Young Witch, especially if my opponent's gotten a Shantytown. And I probably wouldn't get a Shantytown if my opponent isn't indicated all Young Witch already. But I'm not super sure about that because curses should hurt a lot here. So maybe that's wrong. Maybe Shantytown Moneylender is the way to go and you just hope they don't collide. And if they do collide, I guess you can Moneylender Copper, buy a villa, and then play your Shantytown, and then buy something else. Um, I think I want Moneylender over Young Witch, though, and then I may get Young Witch later, or I might get Trader later, or I might do both. Um, we'll see how it goes. I'm unconfident on what the right read here is. I would really need to probably take a substantial amount of time, and actually, this is one place where viewers could help me. I think this is a kind of situation where my sense doesn't feel super strong. So if somebody else has a really strong sense, and maybe I'll find out some from watching the game, then that'd be useful to know. And Jake has just said Moneylender Shantytown is not crazy. And his opponent has gone Moneylender Shantytown. The other thing, though, is, like, how important is it to hit five? Sculptor is good, and sculpting villas is pretty good. Sculpting some silvers at some point. Like, everything else you're wanting to gain here does cost four or less, except maybe gold. So Sculptor gaining it and gaining it to hand is pretty good. Like, Sculptor in some ways is less good here than usual. It's not doing as, or than it sometimes otherwise is. It's not doing as much as it does sometimes, but on the other hand, the whole board is somewhat lacking in power. Um, I imagine that Shantytown is going to be pretty important at various points in this game. Uh, Cut Purse is kind of interesting. I think probably some mishmash of thinning down with your moneylender and then getting Sculptor, probably some amount of Young Witch to attack if they're insufficiently defended. Um, uh, this is pretty bad luck, and I guess that's a something in favor of Cut Purse here. Let's see what the opponent has here? So, yeah, at this point, I guess Young Witch and Faithful Hound have some synergy. The problem with getting another Young Witch here, which Jake is thinking about, is you have a lot of terminals, and Villa helps with that, but Jake doesn't have much in terms of treasure to help actually buy the villas. See, Jake is talking about sculpting a villa here. I don't like sculpting a villa here. I think you'd much rather sculpt a silver. Well, I guess maybe he wants to buy something more expensive, but I would really think about sculpting a silver, buying a villa, and then playing the villa and then playing the moneylender on the last copper there. That way you have a villager in reserve. But you can do some tricks to set your shantytown up thanks to villa, procession, that kind of thing. His opponent really is doing a lot more than, I'm not paying as much attention to the opponent, but more than I would have expected they would be able to do. I imagine this is probably going to be a sculpted Faithful Hound, but it could be a Shantytown. Oh, another Young Witch to attack. Interesting. That's okay. Yeah, so Jake is really building up a lot of terminals here and really focusing on Villa, but I mean, so he has a Shantytown and he has a procession, but okay, Jake just said I probably buy a second procession here. Not anymore, I don't, which means he doesn't realize he has four anyway. Oh, okay. He meant sculptor and now he's getting procession. Okay, this I guess makes sense. Um, so this now I like sculpting the villa so that you can process the villa. So I would sculpt a villa. So he's processioning sculptor? I don't like this play. I would have wanted to sculpt a villa, process the villa, and then you can sculpt, your draw card or whatever it is that you want to sculpt. That way you keep more sculptors, which seems good. Now he's going to run out of. Okay, this is okay because you can buy a villa. He should buy a villa. And then he could either process the villa or didn't really think about it and just straight sculpted, processed the cut purse. Having a lot of sculptors does seem good here. And the curses should be pretty well killing the opponent. Three curses against zero seems like a big deal. The sculptors are going to run out, it seems. Oh, and now here's a young witch from the opponent. Interesting, interesting. So the sculptors can easily run out, the villas can easily run out, and procession makes things run out. Um, Sculptor can make things run out too. And curses can run out. So Discard Faithful Hound and Moneylender here. Yeah. This way you gotta activate your Shantytown, and you gotta do all this stuff. Okay, now really stop to think because the game is ending pretty fast here. Um, I think I'd probably take the silver because the villager is pretty important. He's taking a Shantytown, but I don't know if you're going to have time for that Shantytown. The Faithful Hound being in hand is a big deal here. And now, yeah, Jake does realize there's likely to be a pile out here. Oh. I was going to say if there was a procession, then maybe not, but his opponent didn't process. So I think I just lead on procession, procession. Oh, but I would want to process the Hound. I would not take a young witch here. But really, no, no, no. Think about what you want to do before you plays this fast. I would think you'd want to take a procession in hand because you're going to process. Yeah, you'd want to process another procession. You're going to empty probably shanty towns, sculptors, and okay. I think if you sculpt a procession here, you can. Jake is playing this way too fast for not optimally. Also, right? Yeah, he can't win here. Now he really needs to score because his opponent can pile out likely. Yeah, he thinks he's like now convinced himself, "Oh, I played this wrong." And then he's saying I didn't. But yeah, he should have thought about more and then he also should have thought about that more. He just bought the villa and then is like, "Well, gee, can I win after that?" He should have known he can't win after that. And now he knows for sure that he's bungled it pretty badly, but I mean, he has some chance to still win here, I guess, if his opponent can't. And this doesn't look like a great hand from the opponent, so Jake might be getting bailed out here. If Jake gets a turn and he doesn't need to score, then Procession Villa gets the Sculptor, and maybe he could have piled curses still anyway. But I think he kind of needed the points. But Jake just wins now, right? Just buy the Shantytown. Also, he could buy three curses in an estate. That would win as well. Okay, so really badly played at penultimate turn, but the early young witches saved Jake there because he was so far ahead that even though the misplays later on, it was fine. But so the lessons there are that yeah, young witch is good, cursing is good, if you can't deal with it, and just getting a bane is often not enough. Um, and then like watch what's happening with the processions and those sculptors, and really watch piles more, and don't just click cards without a plan unless you're like super sure. And Jake obviously wasn't sure enough, so yeah.